In today's episode, during listener Q&A, Daniel and I will answer a question about wallpapering over textured plaster.
And later, you'll meet Kylie. Kylie explains how she is respectfully renovating a 1940s garage into a guest house.
But first, I'm Stacy Grinsfelder.
And I'm Daniel Cantor.
This is True Tales from Old Houses, episode 109.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
Great. We're having this crazy windstorm outside, so I don't think it will interrupt our recording, but who knows? It's always a mystery.
Are you getting snow yet or just wind?
We've had snow the last couple of days, but today is just legitimately a wind storm. I don't know how fast these gusts are, but the trees are swaying and it's loud. It's really, really loud. So if you can hear it, let me know, or maybe it'll just be part of that folksy cottage feel we have going on around here on this podcast.
The sounds of the wind. It just started snowing here like an hour ago, and it just snowed, so I really hope I don't have to shovel again.
Oh, you might.
Can't wait.
We have a good episode today for everyone, but before we launch in, I would like to say thank you to our Season 10 sponsors, The Craftsman Store and Sutherland Wells.
Thank you to our sponsors.
So you said you had snow. Do you have a snowblower? Do you have enough snow there for that sort of thing?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't snow like that much. I have a battery-powered snow blower. Is that what it's called? Snowblower?
Yeah. Do you push it and it has a little auger and it shoots snow? Yeah. I mean, I call it a snowblower, but yeah,
snow,
sure.
Whatever it is. Yeah, I have a battery-powered one, which is honestly pretty good. It's the same like line of tools as my lawnmower and weed whacker. And like, I just went battery-powered like several years ago for everything. And it works well, but it's still a, bear of a job. I have 4 properties I clear because I also do my neighbor because
you're a nice guy. That's why.
Well, she walked away from the house like 7 years ago, so I just take care of it now. Anyway, don't worry about it.
Someday it will all be yours, Daniel. I have a feeling.
That's the big plan, yeah. And there's an Easter egg.
We do have a couple of announcements today. Do you want to start?
I mean, I got nothing. I don't think. What do you have?
I do have one announcement. I have one personal announcement, and then we have kind of a regular announcement that we give. But the personal announcement is that I am hosting another tour through holiday vacation, September 7th through the 17th. I talked about it just briefly last regular episode. I'll continue to do that until the booking period is closed. This is kind of a save the dates situation at this point, because I don't think the promotion is actually live. I don't have a blog post written or anything. So I'm just giving people lots of advanced warning that September 7th through 17th, we're going to start in London, we're going to end in London, and in between, we're going to see castles and Christchurch Cathedral, Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, Agatha Christie's vacation home, Stonehenge. We're going to have some weird, wild experiences at Stonehenge.
Yes. I love Stonehenge.
I've never, ever been, so it should be kind of fun.
It's so cool.
Oh, good. And then we're also going to go to Cornwall and see the location of several BBC shows are filmed. I mentioned Port Isaac, which is where one of my favorite shows, Doc Martin, is filmed. Last time you had no idea what I was talking about, but I'm going to throw 2 more
boots.
Combat boots. Yeah. I'm going to throw 2 more shows out. Poldark, which I've never seen, but I hear it's very popular. And a movie, which I did see, Fisherman's Friends 1 and 2. Fisherman's Friends 1 was very good. Number 2 was one of those obligatory sequels that we will not talk about from this point forward.
So you loved it.
Sure, yeah. So anyway, just want to let everybody know that that's coming up and that I'll soon have some more information on my personal blog, the Blake Hill House blog.
How much fun. Well, I know I'm fond of saying this, but I really would like to see if I can swing it this time around because London with Stacy.
Oh my gosh, yes. That would be so much fun. We would have such a good time.
Afternoon tea.
Afternoon tea, yes. I'm hoping that people will book and come with me. And it's kind of like having a built-in friend basically on your vacation. So if you're the kind of person who likes to go on a trip, doesn't really like to plan it yourself, or you feel like, maybe you're a single person and you want to go on this trip, or maybe you're part of a couple, but it's always more fun to travel with others, then I am your personal friend that will be on the trip with you.
Or maybe you're a single person and then there's like another single person and maybe you meet on this trip and it's your meet cute and then Stacy and I can officiate your wedding and like just think of the opportunities.
This is happening. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Maybe there will be a love connection on this vacation.
I guess I will throw in my obligatory announcement to please subscribe and leave a rating or review of this podcast, your favorite podcast that you love, that you are listening to right now. We would really appreciate it.
I also want to say one more announcement is that after today's episode, we only have 2 more minisodes and 1 more regular episode of this season. So this season is wrapping up. We've done a deep dive into wood floor restoration. We did a young tradesperson series, and both of those are wrapped at this point. We've wrapped those both up. So that means we're moving into new questions, new interviews, and then next season is just a bright, new, shiny season just waiting for us.
Absolutely. We will still accept questions about wood flooring should they arise and be things we haven't already addressed, as well as happy to speak to young tradespeople as they arise.
Yeah, good point. Absolutely. I didn't mean we're done. We never want to talk to you again.
No more youngsters. Get away. Go back to your TikTok.
It's been really fun, though, to talk to everybody this season. And I'm curious if anybody wants to offer any feedback about how they felt about us doing the deep dive on floor restoration, also talking to young tradespeople as a series. If you've got thoughts, let me know. This is the first time we've ever really concentrated information purposefully during one whole season. So let us know.
And maybe if you have ideas of other deep dives, that we're open, we're interested.
Absolutely. So what's been going on with you? I guess we have just a few minutes to talk about our projects.
Okay, so I guess the 2 major things are, so last time I think I told you that the boiler kind of install was done at the cottage, but we were waiting on the gas service to get turned on. So the gas service is now on. The cottage is heated. Would you like to know all the many things that could have gone wrong with this job? The thing that has actually gone wrong?
Yeah, because I'm expecting like shooting geysers of water. What's happened?
Not that. The thermostat cannot get the thermostat to turn the boiler off. So consequently, the boiler is just running and running and running and running. And so we know it works because the house is quite literally like 82 degrees, which makes it very hard to work. So I go in there and I turn it off immediately because that's the only way to make it stop. Then it stays really hot. I open the windows, all this stuff, and then I have to turn it on again before I leave just in case the temperatures plummet and I don't want all this stuff to freeze. But I also am going crazy because I'm just running gas all day long for hours and hours and hours. And I'm honestly a little frustrated because it's not like we put in a thermostat and it didn't work. We have tried 7 thermostats, Stacy.
7 or several?
7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what does this tell you the problem probably isn't?
The thermostat?
Yeah, I would think. But I can't complain because it works. Nothing's burst. The install remains quite beautiful, even though it is not especially functional currently. But
is your new work uniform basically just your underwear?
Yeah. Well, like I was like filming something yesterday and I was watching it back later and I'm like, oh my God, my pits are just soaked. It's so gross. But it was so hot. I'm standing in front of an open window. It's 24 degrees outside and I'm like schwitzing. So,
and you're roasting. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So anyway, so that happened. And then the duplex has just been trying to get a tenant.
Well, I will cross my fingers for you that you find just the right person who has both the ability to pay you rent every single month, not just some of the months.
That'd be great.
And that they respect the apartment and take good care of it. There's someone out there. I know there is.
Thank you. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, just send that intention into the universe for your friend Daniel, who does not need more problems. Thank you. What about you? Tell me about, bathroom and other, etc.
Bathroom and other. Yes. All right. Well, I'm working on the hallway outside of the bathroom because I'm going to be doing a paint project for a brand. So I went in there and, yeah, look at me. Fancy pants, right? So I had some plaster repair to do and I've been working on that. Ceiling. It's one of the worst spaces. I have never touched it in any way. There's a hall that goes down the other direction. They're shaped like an L. The small part of the L goes into the regular main bathroom upstairs. The long part of the L goes down to 2 additional bedrooms. But they're cut off by a door and an opening, so they're 2 distinct spaces, even though it's a great big hall. So I'm just working on the tiny little part of the hall and painting woodwork and painting the walls. And it's nothing very exciting. It's the same old prep work we always do: clean the woodwork really well, wash the walls, fill the holes,
sand the holes, caulk everything.
Yeah.
I've been living this life for months. I'm so tired of painting. So tired of painting.
This little hall is pretty satisfying because it's about 10 feet long and it just feels more manageable. It's nice.
Good.
That's it. That's really it.
And the status of the bathroom, are we done?
So close. The contractor did come and put the door back on. He had to cut it down because the tile raised the floor a little bit. And that is something that I could have done myself, but it was on his bill. So I'm like, yeah, come on over and cut that door down. Go for it. So he did that. It looks really nice. The door itself has some cracks in it that you can actually see through into the bathroom. They're kind of large. So I need to fix those. But the door is there, which is really, really nice.
That is nice. My bathroom has a door, but there is literally a day and a half a year that it actually latches. It just happened. And it was
oh
my gosh, it closes. And then the next day it didn't close anymore. These are the joys.
We call those winter doors and summer doors around here. Things that work in the winter don't always work in the summer and vice versa.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got to take a quick break. You ready?
Yes.
Listener Q&A is up next. Now that we've wrapped up the deep dive into wood floor restoration, it's time to get back to some of the other questions that we have received this season. I've received them through the contact form. Today's question comes from Kristen, and she did something fun. She left her question on our voicemail.
How exciting.
Yeah. Did you know we have a voicemail?
I did. And I know we've encouraged people to use it, but they're shy and they tend to write in.
Yeah, I think we used to talk about it every single episode, and then we just kind of stopped talking about it. But if you go to the website, either on a smartphone or on your desktop, you'll see a little microphone icon down on the lower right-hand corner. And you can always leave us a voicemail about anything. We prefer it to be polite, please. We liked kind voicemails. But if you have your question for us for listener Q&A and you want to ask it, on voicemail, then go for it. But anyway, Kristen did that, and let's take a second to listen to her question.
Hi, Stacy and Daniel. My name is Kristen, and I live in a 100-year-old house in Athens, Georgia. My question is about plaster, specifically plaster walls. The hallway is fairly smooth, but the other rooms, it's hard to describe. It's kind of gloppy, glumpy, lumpy. I'm not really sure how to describe it. It's definitely not textured. It looks like lumpy plaster. It doesn't look bad. I just would love to use wallpaper, and this makes it impossible. I had an idea to kind of skim coat it with plaster, with new plaster. Is that okay? Is there an appropriate way to deal with this kind of plaster? Or is this something that I should live with? And I'm fine with that too, if that's the case. But I thought I would ask before I did anything to these walls. Thanks.
Okay, Kristen. Thank you for your question. It's a good one. So we have talked, I can't remember what episode it was though, but we talked about this a little bit before there was a question about how smooth walls need to be for wallpaper installation. But this is a little more specifically about skim coating, I think. So I can give it a shot.
Yeah, go for it. I have some ideas, but you throw out the first answer and then we'll go from there.
Kristen asked specifically about putting new plaster over her plaster walls, and that's probably not what she wants. So there's 2 kind of options. There's lime-based plaster, rather expensive, a little hard to come by. And then there's gypsum-based plaster, which is a great material. It dries super fast. It's really hard to work with. People apprentice for 2 years before they ever put it on the wall. So I would not recommend using it. But something that is quite DIY friendly is joint compound. So you can go a couple different routes with this. There's pre-mixed joint compound, usually comes in a 5-gallon bucket. You can use that. You can also use powdered joint compounds that set up a little faster. There's a lot of tutorials online about how to skim coat walls. I've written on my blog about it. I think Stacy,
I have
written
two.
on your blog?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Alex from Old Town Home has some really great ones. He's very advanced with it. I'm a little more simple. So there's a lot of really good information out there already, but it is a pretty easy thing. You can essentially make sort of a soupier mix of joint compound and even roll it onto the walls and then smooth it out. So the tools that I find really helpful, most helpful one for me is, I believe it's called a magic trowel. It's essentially a wide squeegee that you can use to just smooth it down, and it just leaves fewer kind of marks and stuff than a metal trowel does. But that's probably what I'd recommend. What about you?
I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing that our plaster walls have paint. So in order to put plaster over plaster, you would have to remove all the paint, which means you'd have to probably put a chemical stripper on it, get all of that paint off before you tried to use plaster on plaster. Because otherwise you have plaster walls with paint and you're trying to make plaster stick to paint. It's not going to work, but joint compound will stick to paint and work quite well. And then in the future, if you wanted to go all the way back to bare plaster, then you could do the work to take all of that paint off plaster. It just depends on what you want. But based on Kristen's question, I think I would have the same suggestion.
Mm-hmm. There is a product called Plaster Weld that is a roll-on primer. It's pink. And I know it is for doing plaster veneer over like painted surfaces.
Interesting. Okay.
For gypsum-based plaster, but I don't know if it's suited to lime-based plaster.
Okay. It might be worth a look.
Yeah.
I'll link it in the show notes.
The only kind of new to me thing with skim coating that I'm excited about, because I'm easily excited about things, I guess, is in the olden days, I would use window screening, fiberglass window screening under the joint compound, just over the entire wall, just to prevent cracks and stuff. It just kind of, it's like a decoupling membrane. And so if the wall is shifting a little, it shouldn't crack on the surface. I don't know. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but worked. There's a newer product called FiberFuse. It comes as like a tape too, but it also comes in like I think it's a 4-foot roll. And it is specifically for this task. And it has a little bit smoother texture. So it'll be easier to get a nice smooth wall texture using that. Typically with joint compound, you would do 3 coats with sanding in between. This product promises 2 coats. Seems like a really good product, and I've just started using it. I really like it. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
I don't expect that everybody's going to agree with us, especially about putting joint compound on plaster, but I think we've given a few options here.
Yeah.
A few products that are out there, and take a look at them. I'll link some in the show notes too, like Plaster Weld and this FiberFuse. And to be clear too, that fiberglass screening and this FiberFuse that you're talking about can be used with authentic plaster products as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah, definitely. And if anybody else has a question they want us to answer in a future episode, please do head on over to True Tales from Old Houses. You may ask your question through the contact form, or we would love another voicemail.
We promise we've cleared the answering machine.
True Tales from Old Houses is supported by The Craftsman Store, another excellent resource from Scott Seidler of the Craftsman blog. The Craftsman Store is your go-to place for old house tools and supplies.
Once again, our friend Scott has taken the hassle out of tracking down all the specialized old house supplies we need and put them all in one convenient place for us. It's a cozy little online hardware store full of books, tools, replacement parts, and more.
I'm always looking for diamond glazing points, little specialized tools and supplies for window restoration, but he also has downloadable building plans, and he's written several books too.
And we often think of major online retailers as being the quickest way to get something, but the Craftsman Store ships super fast, and they score extra points for having an actual human working in customer service.
So from window restoration to plaster repair, just like we were talking about, they have everything you need to do the job like a pro. Check it out today at thecraftsmanstore.com and save 10% on your orders if you use our code TrueTales. True Tales from Old Houses is also supported by Sutherland Wells. All of Sutherland Wells products are handcrafted in Providence, Rhode Island with the highest quality, sustainably grown tung oil. Tung oil, native to China, has been used for centuries as a durable finish for wood, metal, and stone.
Unlike polyurethane, tung oil finish penetrates the surface of the wood, so it flexes and contracts as conditions change, which makes it the perfect pre-finish or protectant for everything from fine furniture to window sash and sills.
And I recently wrote about my experience with Sutherland Wells products, specifically the Murdoch's line, on my Blake Hill House blog, and you can read all about that. I love that we use the products from our sponsors because I think that's the only way that we can be sure we're bringing our listeners the very best available.
Absolutely. They're great to work with. They smell amazing, and the results are unparalleled. Sutherland Wells has an entire product line for whatever you're working on right now, which could include siding, hardwood floors, furniture restoration, cutting boards, you name it.
To learn more about the complete product line, visit Sutherland Wells, that's WELLES, sutherlandwells.com. And to save 10% on your first order, use our coupon code TrueTales. Our guest today is Kylie. As we mentioned at the top of this episode, Kylie is converting a 1940s garage into a guest house. What's unique about her project is that she's using salvaged materials to create an authentic old house look and feel.
I'm Kylie McKay. I own a 1918 home in Memphis, Tennessee, and right now I'm working on converting our 1940s garage into a guest house.
Welcome, Kylie.
Hi, Kylie. Nice to meet you.
Hi. Nice to meet y'all, too.
I don't think we have ever had a guest from Memphis, Tennessee, so you're the first. Welcome.
Well, thank you. We've got a lot of old houses here, so...
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking, I can't think of anybody from Tennessee, but as sure as I say that, then I'll get a message from someone who was on the show from Tennessee, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, well, thanks so much for being here. I'm really interested in your project. Let's start with your main house. You said it's a 1918 house. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I live in a historic district. We're the oldest planned neighborhood in the city. First neighborhood that had gas streetlights and indoor plumbing. So that is exciting. It is kind of in a funny spot of town now that's sort of on the edge of a neighborhood that has a lot of neglect and abandoned houses and stuff. So my neighborhood is like this little pocket of these little jewels kind of here on the edge, which is how my husband and I were able to afford a historic home because we got into this little neighborhood. So it's a great neighborhood with a lot of families, but because of kind of the nature of where we are, a lot of them have a lot of deferred maintenance, haven't really been fully upkept over the years. So we've been at a snail's pace working on fixing a lot of the things that the house needs. The plus side of that scenario is that we still have the original windows. They were never replaced. You know, we're missing some details, but we still have the wood floors and the trim and a lot of the things that you kind of lose if people can afford to replace things with new stuff over the years. So
that's interesting.
Cool. And how long have you been there?
We bought in 2020, the weekend that everything shut down. So it was actually really great timing. At first, we weren't even sure if we were going to be able to get a U-Haul, but it ended up working really well because we both were home for the next 3 months. So we got a lot of cleaning and yard work done. It was really great.
I mean, aside from like the massive human loss going on, that's an excellent...
Right. There, silver lining, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking there's no better time to sign mortgage papers than right before a shutdown of epic proportions, right? We're going to have jobs? Hopefully so. We signed the papers. I say that as someone who had experience. The first house that my husband and I actually bought, we signed the papers on the very day that our company was sold. And from there, pretty much everyone got laid off or left. So, yeah.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
That's a lot of fun. Yeah.
So just so we know you a little bit better. So you've lived in the house for almost 4 years. Isn't that crazy? And what do you guys do for a living? Is this your job as well, or?
Yeah. So my husband works at a church. I am currently unemployed. I owned a business. I started a business during the pandemic with a business partner. It's a plant store, retail gift shop. Really wonderful experience. But I'm also a foster parent and have really high stress levels. And owning a business was just a little too much stress in my life. So I very recently sold my shares to my partner and now am figuring out what's next. So currently, I am kind of spending all of my time either applying jobs or working on this project.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Thank you very much for being a foster parent. I know that it's a very necessary job and it takes some really wonderful, special families to step up and do that. So thank you.
Well, thanks.
So you're also here to talk about your guest house project, which kind of caught my eye because it's a bit of a unique scenario. You have a 1940s garage. So if I understand correctly, that was built separate from the house, and it was built in the 1940s versus 1918 you said the original house was built?
Yeah, so the garage, it's a detached 2-car garage, and this is like a really common setup in my part of town in Memphis, where you have the old home right on the street. Nobody had cars when this was built, really. So like there was no driveway in the front or anything like that. And then there's an alley that runs through the back, like in the middle of the block. And so a lot of people built garages along the alley once they had cars. So it's right on our back property line. And from the records that I'm able to find, looks like it was built in the 40s.
Is it additionally common, like nowadays, I guess, for people to be converting these into ADUs and whatnot?
It is. Yeah. Some people do like keep the garage and then build a second story onto it. And some people just turn the whole thing into an ADU. Our neighbor to the right has a garage that they converted several years ago. It's kind of the same layout. So yeah, it is super common.
So you decide to embark on this project, right? Did you hire an architect? How did you kind of wrap your mind around the project?
Yeah, so I don't trust anyone with my projects.
Just tell it like it is, Kylie. Yes. We're like, oh yeah, same, yeah.
I like Kylie.
I think it's common in the old house world. We're all like, just get your hands off of my...
We're control freaks.
Yeah. So I have been doing most of it myself. We don't have a general contractor. I'm just hiring out all of the work. I did the design and submitted for permits and did the architectural drawings myself, which, that was an undertaking, but I did it. So
that's impressive.
Thank you.
Do you have like training in that? Sorry, I'm not trying to.
Oh, no.
Cool.
No. I'm an oldest child. I'm a person that's like pretty confident I can figure out how to do just about anything. So yeah, I just did a lot of research. It took me 700 times longer than it would have taken somebody who's a professional, but
your time was free, right?
That's right.
The lie we all tell ourselves.
Right. Well, so this cottage, I mean, it's one thing for us to talk about how you did this cottage, but you've been approaching it in a pretty unique way. Are you aiming towards something that looks like it's from the 1940s, or are you using materials that make it seem more like a 1918 house?
This is a great question. My approach is kind of, because it is a little bit ambiguous, like it's in this historic neighborhood built in the very early 1900s, but it is old in its own right. But I don't necessarily want it to look like a 1940s time capsule stuck into this historic neighborhood. So kind of what I'm going for is an ambiguous old look. So my house is a Queen Anne cottage. There are a lot of those in the neighborhood and a lot of four squares. So I'm kind of leaning into the cottagey look, sticking with the materials that are used in the neighborhood. There is wood clapboard siding on it already, and the person that built it put all the extra wood siding in the attic of the garage. So we have enough to fill in where the garage doors were with the original siding, which is really exciting. I've salvaged wood-framed windows that are, would be not out of place in 1918. I don't actually know what year they're from, but they're the old growth wood, and the detailing is very similar to some of the other windows in the neighborhood. So yeah, I'm like piecing together a lot of reclaimed materials, really trying not to use new materials aside from like pipes and drywall. So yeah, just trying to make it seem old. Like maybe this has been here forever. I don't know.
Well, and it sounds like something that naturally evolved over time. This is very much up my alley, I feel.
Yeah.
It's so cool. What a fun project. Can I ask, I'm always curious how projects like this, where you're using unconventional things or found things or salvaged or whatever, whether that is a challenge with your local building department, getting the plans approved, stuff like that. I know here that would be an issue, but it's different everywhere.
So Memphis, I think because it's an existing building, I don't have to go through all of the same processes as you would for a new build. And also because like there are certain rules here where the homeowner is allowed to serve as the general contractor on a project like this. So I don't have to use an architect or like there are things I'm sort of exempt from because the building is already there. And so like my plans went through the Landmarks Commission and nobody's really asking questions about where I'm getting these materials from or anything like that. When I submitted for my permit, I detailed in there that I was going to be matching the existing siding and using wood-framed windows and all of these things that I planned on from the beginning. And those were things that the Historic Commission kind of backed me up on and put in their stipulations to use neighborhood appropriate materials and all of these things that I was already planning to do. But nobody's asking where they're coming from. So it hasn't been an issue on that front.
How many square feet are we talking here?
It is just shy of 500 square feet. It's going to be like a studio apartment, basically. It's a 2-car garage. And then there was also a little section next to the second garage door that had like a walking door to enter. And there was a workbench. And there was the scariest half bathroom you've ever seen, kind of DIY'd in the corner. It's a 2-car garage, but it's also got a little extra. But the only walls that we're putting in are for the bathroom. So it'll just be kind of open.
And is it, I assume, concrete slab?
It is, yeah.
And then to get all of your new plumbing where it needs to go, are you having to tear out concrete or like?
Yeah, so where the bathroom was placed before was in the rear corner, and we're keeping it there. So a lot of the plumbing has been able to go through the yard, around the side of the building, and then just enter in that one wall. So we only had to take up concrete like in a couple little channels to put like the line to the toilet and the line to the tub.
And it'll have its own little kitchen, right?
Yeah, I'm doing sort of like I'll have a sink and some cabinets and a fridge, microwave. Yeah.
Is the intention here really guest cottage or short-term rental or long-term rental?
Initially, we'll do short-term rental to pay it off. And then I would love to not be short-term renting it forever and not have strangers in our backyard forever. We're still kind of playing with what that looks like, but probably we'll do short-term rental, pay it off, find a long-term tenant, or potentially use it for studio space. And all of our family lives out of state, so we do have a lot of guests. And my husband and I both have overtaken whole rooms of the house. He's a musician and I sew, and we have creative materials all over the place. So
I hear this. I understand this very distinctly. Yes.
A little up in the air what it looks like in the future. Yeah. But it is one of those things as well that really adds. Memphis has a really large number of short-term rentals like this one and also longer-term rentals like this one. And it will add a lot to the value of our house.
Right. To have a second unit, for sure. And I guess if you have a nice mix of short-term and long-term rentals in Memphis, then it maybe doesn't affect the housing market as negatively. When there is an imbalance, that can often be the case.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are some properties in Memphis that people bought and then made it into an Airbnb, but a lot of the ones here are ADUs like this one, where it's not the only living space on the property, and there are long-term residents there as well.
So you mentioned you're using a lot of like salvaged, reclaimed, et cetera, materials. Tell me about that. Like, what are the coolest things you're putting in or what you're most excited about? Or
that's like been the bread and butter of this project for me. That's the part that makes it really exciting. And I think that is going to make it feel really special. I've been hunting for items for this project for probably 2 years at this point. Started buying stuff before I had plans drawn. But I've gotten a lot of things we have a really great architectural salvage downtown, which is where I got my windows and some other bits and pieces. And then I've gotten a lot of things off Facebook Marketplace too. It's amazing what people want to get rid of on Facebook Marketplace. Found a wood door that has very similar detail to, okay, my favorite part, the favorite thing that I found. are these casement windows that they're a matching set. So 2 sets of them. And each one has double panes that open in. They're like big and they have 9 panes in each section and they're so beautiful. So the door has almost the same pane layout as those windows, which I was so excited about. So yeah, I've been kind of sourcing, picking things up around town. And then the really interesting, challenging part has been convincing my subcontractors to work with my salvaged materials.
That was my next question. Tell us all about it.
I will say, I have found a really great group of people to work with at this point. Anyone I met with in this process that didn't quite sit right with me or I didn't feel excited about was a no-go. It's also taken a while because I've been like searching through people to find someone that I trusted and that trusted me as well and the things that I'm trying to do. It has definitely been interesting. I like my plumber. God bless my plumber. They're so wonderful. They dug like a 3-foot trench through from the water line on the street, 150 feet back to the guest house. It was like a 2-week-long ordeal. And like the whole time we're having to make changes to the layout because of where things are or changing where I originally told them all these things were going to go.
You found a saint plumber too, like a couple episodes ago on a mini-sode. I talked about my plumber, the saint, and then my husband started calling him Saint Plumber. So it made me think of that when you said you found your plumber. So if you're doing an old-timey house, you must be doing a really cool bathroom, right?
Yeah. So the plumber assumed that we would be getting a new toilet and sink and all of the fixtures. And then I surprised him with the vintage pink toilet that was left in the bathroom before. And
yeah, you did.
And the wall-mounted sink that wasn't even mounted with the right kind of materials. And then I found a cast iron tub on Facebook Marketplace that is going in.
Is it also pink?
Unfortunately not. Since then, like 2 weeks ago, I found a pink one on Facebook Marketplace. I sent it to my husband and I was like, this matches the toilet. I feel like we should get the pink. And he was like, we already moved a cast iron tub into this garage. It is in place in the framing. No.
Oh, yeah. Oops.
Pink toilet only, but that's okay. But yeah, I started bringing out these vintage fixtures one by one, and my plumber just kind of, his eyes got a little bigger with each one, and he just kind of like slowly nodded and he was like, okay. But yeah, so he's been super willing to work with what I've brought him. The definitely more challenging part has been the like carpentry work that I'm sourcing out. So like I have these incredible windows, but somebody has to frame them in and fix the siding and put trim on all of it. It's been really interesting to try and find people that are willing to do that and also understand my vision for what this looks like, because I'm kind of showing them this hodgepodge of materials that are not fixed up yet. I'm like in the process of reglazing these windows. So they're naked wood with no glass in them. And, you know, yeah, there's been a lot of like funny conversations where they're like not really sure what I'm looking for and I'm like drawing a lot of pictures. And yeah, that's been definitely a challenging piece of it.
Yeah, windows I find especially throw people off. A replacement window just fits right in the place that's already built. And when you're doing new windows, a lot of times that comes all together. So you're basically just throwing the jamb on the window in an opening. So retrofitting with these old windows, I bet that does throw them off. Do you feel like you've found someone who can do that now, or are you still in the process of looking?
I think I have found someone. I'm working on getting like a quote from him, which he's like looking at all of these pieces and he was like, I can't really give you a solid number until we get in there because we don't really know.
Are the windows, are they in a jam or are they just sashes?
So the casement windows do have the like frames that they fit in. I chose that purposefully, like they were beautiful and they're not double hung. So I knew it would be easier to put in.
Yeah, that seems like it'd be pretty straightforward. Well, you know, we can use this platform right now to just shout out to anyone who's near Memphis. If you know someone who's like a restoration carpenter or could help Kylie out in this situation, let us know here on the show and we'll connect you to.
And honestly, basic framing like that is really not very difficult. So it takes a certain level of bravery to like cut a big hole in the side of your house, but it's just like a rod. I don't know. It might be worth just looking at, see if it's interesting. Maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Like to DIY?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done it. I don't know. It's just some framing.
I have considered it. That said, I own one saw. So like there would be a lot of tools to buy, and also just because it's like the envelope and like the siding and all of it needs to be watertight, I feel a little bit nervous about DIYing that part. I am doing a lot of DIY, to be fair, but
Sure.
That doesn't mean I won't get there, but I'm not there at this point. I still have hope that I'll find somebody I trust to do it for me.
You'll get there.
I like that growth mindset. It's like, I'm not ready to do it now, but that doesn't mean I won't do it in the future. So good on you,
Right.
Kylie. I always appreciate that. Someone who's willing to grow and think about the potential in the future. Absolutely. So what kind of kitchen are you making here? What kind of salvage materials are you using in your kitchen?
Again, got cabinets on Facebook Marketplace.
What style?
They're very simple. They're just sort of like a flat wooden door. I'm going to paint them. They're like not the statement at all. They're just very basic. But I have this cast iron sink. And then this is probably one of the more interesting stories about my salvaged materials. This was probably a year and a half ago, like before I had anything drawn up. Found on Facebook Marketplace where someone like an hour and a half away from me had this shop full of dead stock tile they were trying to liquidate. Their father-in-law had passed like 25 years ago. Their mother-in-law just locked the door and didn't touch any of it. And then when she passed, they had to clean everything out. So they were selling boxes of brand new dead stock tile. A lot of it was from the 60s, 70s, old, beautiful colors and textures. So I drove an hour and a half to go look at this tile, spent like 3 hours picking out different like samples and seeing how much they had and piecing things together. And I came home with my car loaded down with enough tile to do the whole bathroom for $100. So
wow, good for you.
Yes. And I've got some floral patterned ones that I'm hoping to use above the sink and then as a little backsplash in the kitchen. And very excited because these are tiles that if I were to buy a similar style new, they would be out of my budget. They're hand painted. Yeah, one of my funny stories.
How cool.
What a find.
Yes.
In terms of the construction and renovation, what sorts of things are you DIYing versus hiring?
So my husband did all the demo. There was like
Hot.
plywood ceilings and walls.
Would it be hot if I did the demo, Daniel?
Even hotter, Stacy.
Something about a crowbar,
He works in a church. I got to be careful. I don't know.
We're not those kind
He's going off the rails.
All right, go ahead. Back to the topic at hand, Kylie.
Yeah, so my husband did all of the demo. There was generations of junk from old owners that we removed. I've been scraping old paint off of the side of the garage, it feels like, since the moment we bought the house so that I can repaint. And then I'm restoring all of the windows. I'm going to tile the bathroom. I have not done that before, but I feel confident I can figure it out.
You can.
And then painting, trim, all of the basic things. So we really hired out all of the systems, AC, electric, plumbing, and then this carpenter should be sort of our last piece before we can DIY all the rest of the things ourselves.
And sorry, what are you doing for AC, out of curiosity?
Yeah, we put in central air. It's just like a tiny little baby unit. It's like 2 tons or something.
Like a mini split, like a wall mounted?
It's not a mini split.
Oh.
Central air with ductwork. Yeah.
So we had AC put in the house about a year after we bought it. When we moved in, we had 2 window units for the entire house and 2 gas floor furnaces. We died all summer and then froze our tushies off all winter. And there was no way for any of these systems to keep up. They were not cutting it. So about a year after we bought the house, we had central heat and air put in. and spent a long time talking with a lot of contractors, many of whom do old houses regularly. And we were strongly advised against mini splits because we were told that when they have an issue, nobody keeps the parts on hand. And a lot of times you can't even get the parts. So then you have to just buy a whole new system. And so what goes from a budget option then becomes even more expensive because you have to replace it way sooner, especially because we are going to be renting out this guest house for some period of time, at least. We wanted to know that the heat and cooling was going to be a reliable system. And then if it had an issue, we could fix it quickly. So yeah, central heat and air it is.
Just because in my head, a central air system's so big and there's so many ducts and stuff, like, where does it all live?
The garage has, like a pitch to the roof, and there's an attic. It's tight, but all of the ductwork and the heater the furnace are up in the attic.
Got it. Cool.
Wow, that's really good.
I want to move in. Sounds so nice.
So what's your timeline for this? Do you have a timeline? I don't know why I'm even asking that question. Old houses have their own timelines.
Yeah, we all know that the timeline is determined by the house and not by us. So I started working on the permit beginning of last year, thinking that it would be done maybe like in the fall. We got delayed like 2 months because we found out that here's a fun story. We found out that the central beam supporting the roof was actually made out of 2x2s sistered together and was not a beam, and also didn't have vertical beams in the walls underneath of them. So several people that looked at it were like, I kind of can't believe this roof is still standing. We had to get a structural engineer, jack up the roof, put in a beam, and that set us back like over 2 months just for that whole process. So, any timeline I give you is not going to be right at this point, but I'm hoping that maybe in the spring we'll be finished.
I desperately want to see this hand-painted tile, among other things. Is there a way for us to follow along as you do this project?
Now that I'm unemployed and have a little bit of extra time, I started an Instagram account for this. My Instagram account for Old House and Reno things is kylie.rummel.mckay.
All right. I'll put that in the show notes to make sure all those names are spelled correctly.
Can't wait. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, Kylie, thank you so much for being here today. This project is fascinating. I'm looking forward to watching it both in progress and also seeing the outcome at the end. So many of these projects, especially when we're living in them, we don't ever really anticipate a conclusion. At least I don't, not in my house. I mean, I'll have my own conclusion, but it must be nice sometimes to work in a guest house where there is an actual end at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Our main house is definitely one of those things where you work on it until you sell it or die. So,
right.
Yes, I'm very excited to have a project I can check off the box and be done with.
We'll have so much fun with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And so great to meet you, Kylie.
Yes, y'all too. Thanks for having me.
Kylie.
Thank you for listening to True Tales from Old Houses, and thank you to Kristen for her plaster question and to Kylie for sharing her guest house project. Don't forget to leave a rating and review wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts.
And to continue the conversation, join us over on Facebook and Instagram at True Tales from Old Houses. You can follow Stacy at Blake Hill House or myself at Daniel Cantor. And to learn more about everything we discussed in today's episode or request a transcript, please visit truetalesfromoldhouses.com.
Until next time.
See ya on the mini.